Good evening, everyone, and welcome to our CEC meeting for the month of November. We're going to start in about a minute. I just want to give one or two of our CEC members who are not here the opportunity to sign on or come on, and then we'll get started. Thank you for joining us tonight.
Joseph Di Benedetto.
Present.
Wing Yu.
Present.
Anne-Marie Knable.
Present.
Joseph Chow, we're still waiting for him. Sung Young Lee.
Present.
Rashmi Krishnaraj.
I'm here. Can you hear me?
Yes, I hear you.
Yes.
Michelle Frederick.
Okay.
Yeah.
And Sana Tayeb.
Present.
Perfect. So we have a quorum present at our meeting. We're still doing our hybrid meetings because the governor has extended the exceptions to the in-person meeting law. So we are able to operate with a quorum this evening. So let's start with welcome everyone, and we're going to, the CEC members are going to review the minutes from October, and we'll call for the approval of the October minutes before we get started.
Yes.
Yeah, so we're just checking on the bylaws, I'm sorry, on the minutes from last month, whether the, what the deadline is for the middle school applications, right?
Yeah.
Change it.
No, high school is December. High school December 1st. Let me just check here.
So on the minutes, we're fine with the high school applications. The deadline to submit your applications is December 1st. We're just checking
And
on,
December 1st is also middle.
so we should really specify in the minutes
Okay.
that middle school applications are, the deadline is December 1st.
Okay. I'll change. I'll change. that.
Mr. Chow is here.
Hi, Joe. Hi, Joe.
Okay, so we have all our members present. We have another busy schedule this evening. Are we deeming with those changes regarding the deadline for the middle school applications? Are we okay to approve October's minutes?
Yes. Yes.
Okay, so we have consensus to approve the minutes. Okay, so before we get started, I'm going to just let the community know I'm getting a little heat for running our meetings quite late. So I'm going to remind, just a little heat, but I know I'm pretty much lax on the public speaking portion, but I'm going to be a little strict this evening and allow those who want to speak publicly. We're going to adhere to our bylaws, which calls for 2 minutes only. So if you'd like to speak, I'm going to ask Juliana Fedorov, you're here. If you don't mind, can you, when the time comes, are you okay with putting up the timer on the screen?
Yes, Joe, thank you. I will put up the timer.
Perfect. So when we come to our public speaking portion, we will limit that to 2 minutes per speaker. And this way we will run a quick and efficient meeting. And for my report, I just want to let you know that this evening we have, I believe we have the applicants here for the open seat on the CEC, which I hope we can vote on this evening. Is Eden Rubenstein here and or Crystal?
So I believe Crystal rescinded her.
So Carly communicated with Crystal Gonzalez, and apparently she rescinded her application for a position. I'm not sure if Eden is here, but when the time comes, we will vote on the open position, provided she comes to the meeting. Also, I want to tell you that I went to a legislative breakfast last Friday at Flushing High School, which was conducted by Flushing High School, Veritas Academy, and Queens High School for English new language learners. And I did meet the students who ran the school boards there, the student council, and they seem to have an interest in joining our CEC, at least as an applicant or as the student representative. And I did remind their principals that they have to submit their application to our superintendent, who will interview them, and hopefully we can get a student member on board as well, which will be great for our community. Having said that, we're going to jump right into our agenda, and we are going, are you okay with me starting with the presentation?
Yeah.
Okay, so I'm gonna start with the parent options for English language learners and families presented by Richard Braun. Is Mr. Braun here?
Yes, hello, good evening.
Mr. Braun, you have the floor.
Okay, thank you very much. Let me just situate my screen. Apologies. Okay, so good evening, everybody. Welcome. I'd like to tell you a little bit about parent options for English language learners and families. This is my emoji and my email address. If you have any questions, comments, anything, please feel free to reach out, and I am happy to help.
Rick, can I just interrupt just for 1 second? So just so the community knows, when we're conducting my listening and learning tours, and I introduced the new district staff. Rick Braun is our English language learner support. So if you could go back, Rick, just to your email address and your really great Bitmoji. If there are any questions from the community following this presentation, just know that Rick is connected to our office, and families can feel free to reach out to him if the school is not available to answer your questions. So thank you, Rick.
You got it. And yes, my email address, as well as a bunch of the resources tonight, are hyperlinked. So when you receive a copy of this presentation, you can feel free to reach out if you have any questions, and presentation will also have my talking points as well. So tonight's outcomes, we are going to explore the 3 options that parents have when choosing the proper setting for their child. We're going to examine the transfer option if your school does not have the ideal program that you are looking for. And we're going to identify resources to help parents make the right decisions for their child. So before I begin, I just want to say a word on bilingualism. I'm not sure why, but there's kind of a stigma to bilingual education. And some parents, they don't want to have their child really learn in their home language. They want English only. And I feel like that's you're doing wrong by the child, basically, by depriving them of their language, because a bilingual education is asset-based, and we want to focus on what the child basically has their strengths in, and their love, and they're able to identify with their culture. So just bilingual education has so many benefits. As you can see here, we have some listed. Just that sense of identity and the feeling for their language and the culture that's represented. And again, this is an asset-based approach. So we're taking a language that this child already has skills in, and we're using that to help further any other language learning. So once a student has been identified as having language needs, And that is when parents bring their child in to be admitted, they fill out a home language survey. And depending on how they answer questions like, what language does my child communicate in? What language is my child comfortable reading in? After answering a bunch of questions like that, the child is then either taking the NICETEL, which is the entry exam if they answer a certain way, just basically a certain amount of times in their home language. The student will be tested to see if they have language needs, and that is with the NICETEL, which is basically an entry exam into ENL or bilingual education. If the student does not score at the passing level for their grade, they will be an English language learner, and then they're going to have an opportunity to learn through 3 different programs. And the choices that parents have for their children's language learning in the DOE is ENL, English as a New Language, TBE, Transitional Bilingual Education, and DL, Dual Language. So on the next couple of slides, we are going to learn a little bit more about these programs and how they help support students' language learning. So English as a New Language. This is a program that's done, as the name implies, this is in English. We only teach in English, but students are allowed to have home language supports. That's the one difference it had from when I first started teaching years ago. It was a sink or swim, full immersion in English, and that was really a disservice for students. So now the instruction is in English, but students are allowed to access their home language as a support, be it from a bilingual glossary or a language buddy, anything that's available to help support the student. Then we have Transitional Bilingual Education, TBE. This is a program where students learn in 2 languages. They learn in the target language of the class, be it English, being Spanish, Chinese, anything other than English, and English. So they're learning in 2 different languages every day. Now, a transitional program is more of a supportive environment, and we will talk about that more as we go through and speak about the other programs as well. Dual Language. Dual Language is another bilingual program where students learn in 2 different languages. Now, Dual Language is a little bit of an accelerated program. So that's how it differs from the transitional bilingual education. Dual Language is basically all of the students' lessons every day in both language. So it's a lot of work. It's double the load of what an average student does. And that's in the target language as well as in English. And now teachers have basically carte blanche to plan how this language is going to be distributed. And it's in a 50-50 model. That can be 50-50 during one day with, say, English in the morning and Spanish in the afternoon. Could be every other day switching off, English one day, Spanish the next day, for instance. It's really up to the teacher, the program, the population, but they are able to choose what's better for their students. And in a 2-way bilingual, 2-way dual language program, we don't need to have all speakers of the same home language. So not all students need to be Spanish speakers as well as English speakers. That's more for the TBE program. Like I said, that's more of a supportive than an accelerated program. So in the dual language program, it's much different in that sense because, again, they're getting double the work every day. And TBE is more of a situation of teacher getting to know their students well and seeing, okay, these students need help in their home language for these lessons, so let me do it that way. And again, the teacher has that ability to choose what's best for their students. So how are the programs different?
Wait, Rick, can I just
Yes.
interrupt for 1 second? So just to clarify about dual language classes do not have all new language learners in them. Some of the families and students who participate in dual language are families who choose to have their child engaged in a bilingual program. So the planning and the language of instruction does alternate, and each school has either one of the two programs that Rick discussed. But, you know, one of the things that I think is very important is, although teachers service new language learners because it is a mandated service, they are with children who are choosing to speak two languages.
So instruction goes both ways.
Yes.
Absolutely.
And the planning, here's the other thing I said. The planning for those programs is aligned to the curriculum, the English curriculum that the students have. So if you're in a dual language class, you're not learning a different curriculum than other students who are in English only classes. What you are getting is the other language of the same curriculum, and that's where the planning comes into place.
I have a question. I believe that like, can the ELL student be the dual language program?
That, yes,
The question was whether an ELL student could be in the
that's
dual
what
language
it,
program.
that's, so yeah, so it's an option. So what Rick was talking about is there's three options for new language learners or ELL students, right? It's the same type of learner.
Uh-huh.
So when a child is first enrolled in a New York City school or any school, not just in New York City, they have the parents fill out a home language survey. Based on those questions, they would administer the NICETEL. The NICETEL measures their language and it determines whether they're going to be an ELL student or not. One of the things that, and the reasons why I'm really happy that Rick is here today is because we want to really get out to the community, the choices that our parents have. I think a lot of parents think the only service that is offered is ELL, which is an English service with other language supports, right? So if I am a new language learner or an English language learner, I could be in a class, if I speak Mandarin, I could be in a classroom with someone who speaks Pashto, Spanish. It's all of the instruction is in English with other language supports. That's one service. And it is actually the service that many of our parents choose. We want to make sure that the community knows that there's other options. The other two options that Rick is talking about is TBE, which is Transitional Bilingual Education. That TBE is, let's say, it is for ELLs, new language learners only, and students are organized by their home language. So you will have a Mandarin TBE program, a Spanish TBE program, and what happens is a teacher will start in the home language first. So maybe if it's Spanish, it will be 90% of instruction will be in Spanish at the beginning of the year, 10% English, and as the year progresses, it will be 40, 50, 40, right? So it transitions to English. And then the third is dual language. And with dual language, it is a combination of English speakers and new language speakers. But yes, you can service English language learners. Now, one of the things that we have worked really hard to do in District 25 is to increase our TBE and our dual language. And we want parents to know that we have these classes too, should they choose.
I don't want to cut Rick off on his presentation, but I have a question, because I am an English language learner. I spoke only Italian until I went to school. So the question I have is, I understand there's a lot of members in our community who are Chinese, Mandarin, Korean, but what happens if you come from a language, in other words, Italian, for instance, right? So is it limited? In other words, I don't know in our district which schools are dual language and which languages are taught. Okay, I guess you're gonna get there. Gotcha.
Yeah, so that's going to be coming up actually on a slide coming up. Yeah, so we do have that as a resource to let everybody know where we have these available programs. And as Danielle mentioned, when you were asking how does one start a program, that's also going to be on a later slide. But basically, if you have 15 parents with the same language, that want, in 2 contiguous grades, you can have a bridge for a dual language class. If you have 15 or more parents that want that dual language and they all speak the same language, then we can open a program in a school. So if there were enough parents that wanted an Italian program, for instance, if there were 15 or more, then we could definitely get something going. We would escalate to central and just see about how we could support them in opening the program. So as Danielle mentioned, the dual language program generalized, it's 50-50 in the home language as well as the targeted language, the home language as well as in English, I'm sorry. And that is something that kind of stays the way it is. I mean, the frequent, it's always going to be the same frequency, but the teacher can basically change as long as they're getting that 50% English as well as the target language. Again, they have that ability to do so. Now, transitional bilingual, as Danielle also mentioned, has a sliding scale. So you're going to start out the year in September, it's going to be 90% in the home language. So the students are more comfortable. They're able to basically create their learning environment. And as the year progresses, that sliding scale is going to change and go down a little more. So the home language would be more 10% and English would be 90%. So that's how it supports students. It really helps them get their new language, especially if they don't have a lot of English at their disposal when they first come to the program. And again, English, ENL, English is a new language. It's primarily in English, but with home language support. And the goal for that is English language proficiency. Were there any more questions before I continue?
Mr. Chow has a question.
I have a question. Oh, sorry.
Yes.
Okay.
Who is
This,
that,
this is Rashmi. Yeah. So so there's a difference between dual language and bilingual language just in terms of nomenclature?
Well, bilingual is
Are
the
they
umbrella. Think of it as the umbrella that dual language and transitional TBE are under. They're both bilingual programs, but they have different models of how they help students attain language learning. You know what I mean?
Okay. Right. So I have a suggestion from a parent perspective.
Oh,
When
please.
when you offer in a school, for example, in PS 107 that I know personally of, they started offering Spanish and English side by side. And I'm not a native Spanish speaker, but I chose when I was on that side of the Flushing, I was a part of 107. So I volunteered my daughter, and she was doing exceptionally well as a dual language learner, Spanish and English side by side. But our language is not a home language. So when you use the word home language, it kind of starts making a difference on other people who do not speak that language to be wanting to learn that language. So that's just my little suggestion to you. Take out that word home and just use as dual or bilingual.
Okay, no, I can definitely take that. I appreciate your feedback. Yes, so basically those are our 3 programs, and let's continue.
We may have another question for Mr.
Please.
Yeah, Mr. Chow.
Hello, Rick.
Hello.
My name is Joseph Chow. I'm very glad that finally somebody came up with the term transitional bilingual. I used to work in the high school. Most parents think bilingual program is the same as dual language. At any rate, I have a question. Is a school required by state law to offer bilingual classes if you have more than, say, 20 students on the same grade level?
If you have the numbers, that 20 students looking for bilingual, yes, it is a mandate. Then the school does have to investigate ways to begin the program. But then that also can lead to staffing questions and everything. So it doesn't mean that the program is just automatically going to happen. There are factors that we have to basically get together before we can create the program. But yes, the process has to be started and looked into for the bilingual program. That is the mandate, yes.
So who starts the process? Is it the parents?
No.
The parents request it, and then the ENL personnel from the school can reach out to me, and then I can get in touch with Central and just hook them up basically and get them together so they can learn what they need to do, and Central can take a look at them statistically, see whatever questions they might have, staffing issues, just like things like that to bring up of are they able to create the program. Okay.
Thank you.
All right, you're welcome. Okay, so here is this slide is going to be a resource for you. This is a list of the current bilingual programs in District 25. And as you can see, we do have many to choose from, and we hope to be opening more. I know there were a bunch of schools this year that had expressed interest in opening new bilingual programs. So I'm hoping that this list is going to grow exponentially.
And if you notice, one school will have multiple programs. So not only have we opened up our bilingual programs across the district, but we have also opened bilingual special education programs across the district, and those continue to increase every year.
Absolutely. Schools want to be able to offer what their students need. So if they need a more supportive environment, they're going to open a TBE program. But if they're ready to challenge their students and to push them to learning a new language, that's when a dual language is going to be in order. So if there's one thing I want.
I'm sorry. Can we go back to the prior screen? I'm sorry. So with the dual languages, I see there's what, 4 schools, 20, 21, 32.
We have some in each column, yeah.
Oh, we do have, okay, so we have a,
63,
so we have a number of schools that have dual languages, got it, okay.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Our pre-K center.
So if there's one thing I really want, especially parents to come away with is the knowledge of the transfer option. I've already explained in this blurb here about how if you have enough parents and students that want to create the class, but there's also a transfer option. And I know this has also come up within the district since the summer. Parents can transfer their child to another school that has the program that they're looking for. So if they are looking for a dual language Mandarin program and their school doesn't offer one, there is an email address that the school can reach out to and start the process to basically see if there's a seat available in that program of the parent's choice. And this is something I've been communicating to schools since we've been back, and I really feel like it's important for parents to know, because parents have a lot of rights in their choice for their child's language learning. And I just want to make sure that everyone is educated and everyone makes the right choice, because we don't want that bilingual stigma that I talked about at the beginning to keep going. It's really not good, especially for the kids. I mean, we really want them to hold on to that language. So once we have a student is an L, they are being serviced throughout the year, either in ENL or in a bilingual program. It's time for the exiting L status. And how does a student do that? They take an exit exam called the NYSIS LAT. And that is going to measure the growth of the child and how much language they've learned since the previous school year. It's given every year, begins in April and it runs through mid to late May. It measures the listening, speaking, reading, and writing modalities of growth, and just to see how the student has progressed, basically. And it used to be that students have to score commanding or proficient level on the NYSIS LAT to score out of ENL. But now they are also available to test out another way. If they score an expanding, or at the very least expanding, or a more advanced level, and they get a 3 or above on the ELA, they can also test out of L status this way. And when a student does test out of L status, they still receive 2 years of service just to make sure that their transition to English proficiency is supported and fostered. We don't want to just say, okay, you did it, bye. We want to make sure that we continue that support and make sure that they're okay. So how can you support?
Sorry, Rick, I'm sorry, I have another question.
Oh, no problem.
So that applies to the ELL, but what happens if you're in the dual language or the bilingual? Do you still stay on?
Yeah.
If you have, see, as Danielle mentioned before, in those bilingual classes are L students, especially in the TBE, they're all Ls. In a dual language, only the L half of the class, because it's a 50% ELL, 50% English proficient. So only the Ls will take the same exam, whether they're in an ENL or a bilingual program.
Understood, thank you.
You got it. So again, this is another resource that just ways that you can support your child's language learning and just how to bring literacy into your everyday life. And here are some resources. All these are hyperlinked to state web pages. That's where a lot of this material tonight is from, the New York State website. And basically all of these things are just ways parents can educate themselves about making a better decision for their child. And the best is New York State really has been doing a great job with translated documents. So there are a lot of different languages available for parents to choose when reading and learning of all of this. So I just want to open the floor for more questions if anyone has any.
So I'll start with the council members. I'm not sure if someone else has a question on the, okay. You're good. You have a question, Venus? No, okay. If you have a question and you're here remotely, just raise your hand or just put your question in the chat. Venus, you have a question for it?
Yes, all of your presentation was very exciting and refreshing. English language learning has become my third passion after special education and after empowering parents. Having worked in District 30 for the past 6 years, dealing with students from Tibet and Indonesia and Ecuador and Nepal and everywhere. So to hear what this district is offering it's phenomenal. When you were talking about promoting these programs, I know that an apprehension for immigrant families is loss of the upliftment of the brilliance that their children come with from Bangladesh or from Ecuador or from Colombia, where their school systems are very rigorous. And then in the past, parents and students have gotten trapped in English language learning curriculum programming, and sometimes the students digress because the focus has been on teaching them English. So my question is, how do you and your department plan to uplift the brilliance of our immigrant families so that they are excited and know that when their child is in this program, one, there's clear pathways out of it so they don't feel trapped like my kid is gonna start to end up in the special education dual language program, and also uplift the math skills and the other writing skills in their language that they come with, because most of the time it's hard for those kids to pass that test and they can never get out, so parents are afraid.
Yep. So it's a great question. I'm gonna pass the mic to Superintendent.
So Rick, I'll answer this. So one of the things that I think is very important is over the past 12 years since I've been superintendent, I'm sorry that my back's to you, is our commitment to bilingual languages and expanding bilingual languages in the district for a few reasons. First of all, I think it's very important to know that in District 25, we have over 6,000 L's. So one of the things you'll hear me say to our teachers all the time is if you are a teacher in District 25, you are a teacher of English language learners. And our professional learning for our teachers and our paraprofessionals is around those skills and strategies. If a child is in an English speaking environment, that they have the language supports and the access that they need. So our work with the Council for the Great City Schools, we have relationship with Boston College and NYU just around teaching our teachers about ways to support our new language learners. Now, I want to talk about one of the ways that we focus on our bilingual programs is that what we have learned is that learning in multiple languages, and for those of you who speak multiple languages, you know that there are certain things that your brain does to help you process information. So I will tell you, in many of our schools, our dual language students outscore our gifted and talented students. Our EverLs they call, or L English language learners, former L's outscore our never L's, and it has to do with the processing of information in multiple languages. Us studying that information is one of the reasons why we made a commitment to bilingualism. So Venus, what you're saying is our parents in the community, because we value bilingualism and learning the cultures of the languages that we support, parents would not feel that this is a space where they have to age out or test out of, because they enjoy exploring things in multiple languages. So, so that's, that's the answer to the question. So, you know, and actually it was from the request of many families that we continue to expand on these programs. What we want is, we know that many families that are new to the country will speak to their neighbors. When I moved into my town, I spoke to my neighbor, and guess what? I sent my child to the preschool that they sent their child to, right? So we want to get it out there that when you go into school to register your child as a new language learner, you are put in a room and they give you an information session about all these different programs. But we want to continue to support our community, not just during that time, but before, that families know they have options. And not only that, but if you are a new language learner and you choose to send your child to another program and there is room in that program, you don't just have to go to your zone school. You can go to the program where that language and that service is offered.
Yeah, I'm glad to hear that.
Rick, you still have your presentation,
No,
right?
it's not.
No, that was it. I finished.
Question for you.
All right, that was a great presentation,
Thank you.
short and sweet and to the point. To continue on the superintendent's conversation, one of my master's degrees in bilingual education. Bilingual people have two perspectives. That's why they're able to do more sometimes. To answer your question, Rick, most parents don't want their kids in bilingual education because they think they're sending their kids to school to learn English. I work very hard to convince them, you're sending your school to learn knowledge. English is the extra work they have to do because they're not proficient yet. Usually bilingual programs produce some of the top students. I had a student who graduated valedictorian. She started 9th grade. I taught her a trick in 9th grade, other trick. And another one, I taught her the equivalent of geometry in 9th grade. She graduated number 2. I mean, from not a word of English to graduating number 1, number 2. That's tremendous. And thanks to the bilingual education we have. I'm glad it's called transitional. Thank you.
Exactly. I'm not sure if there's anyone on the remotely who has any questions.
Yeah, Eden has her hand up.
Eden? You wanna unmute her? Hi, Eden.
Hi, thank you. So I just had a different question, slightly along this line, but kind of going a little slightly different. What happens in a situation where we come across a new language that is not something that we usually have experienced, where we do need somebody to have that access to a different language than we usually offer? What do we offer them at that point?
That's a good question. Thank you. So what it does, basically how I said before, how let's say you have enough parents that want to create the bilingual program and you get them and they get started. So then basically, wait, I'm sorry, could you just repeat the question one more time? I'm so sorry.
I think she's saying when we talked about access, let's just say in an ENL program.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so how do teachers get those access for new languages to a community?
So basically, it's really a matter of just digging deep and finding whatever you need. I mean, we have the Title III funds where teachers can buy stuff for lower incident languages. Whenever that happens, we want to be able to support them. Having a staff member is also the best way. But again, this is one of those things I talked about when we put that class together. It's not just an automatic, yes, we're going to have the bilingual class, because now we need to find a teacher who's duly certified, who can speak that language as well as teach these students under the proper licensing. So that's that's kind of the tricky question. I mean, it's finding the right people, because and not just someone who speaks that language, you want the right teacher, someone who's going to do well by your students. So it's a process, and it's kind of, I don't really have like a complete answer for that, but basically while you're waiting for those services, for that class to come up, the students receive ENL services full-time as if the parent had chosen that, until that seat is open. So they are serviced during that time, even though they're not getting the requested program.
So they'll just stay on the ELL unless.
Yeah, if we can open the program, that's even better. Then we can support them in their language. But until then, it's just ENL with home language supports. And sometimes it's hard. Teachers have to go digging on the internet to find things. Sometimes we have low incidence language that even the state doesn't provide like a home language glossary for. So it's different with every situation, but basically we do the best we can to support the kids.
Thank you. We have one more question. Johanna?
Yes, hello, good afternoon. Very nice presentation.
Thank you.
So I have a question as a parent. My daughters, they go to PS20. Now, this is a very heavy Chinese community. My daughters are ENL student beginners in Spanish. So they've been having a little trouble when it comes to the language, because like I said, there is a lot of, the community is mostly Chinese.
Mhm.
So they don't have enough, I mean, I know they try, but they don't have enough tools for the Spanish speaking kids, because I have spoken to other parents that are Spanish completely, and they have told me as well that they have the problem that their kids are not understanding their classes because there is not enough Spanish speaker teachers. So in this case, when it comes to creating a bilingual or transitional class for Spanish speaker kids, do they have to all be in the same grade, or how will it work? So that way I can speak with the other parents that I have spoken with.
If you have 2 continuous grades where you have that 15 students that want, yes, you can create a class like that.
Okay, perfect, because I know about 3rd, 4th, and 5th. So it comes up to those 3 classes, but I'm not quite sure the quantity of students.
Yeah, that would be the challenge.
I can surely ask the other parents if we can make the 15 students, because like I said, it's very hard for our kids.
Can I just ask a question? So the children are new language learners, so they're receiving ENL services?
They are at the moment, yes. My daughters are, they're ENL beginners. They are receiving, but for example, they are getting tested and not receiving those tests in Spanish. My older daughter, she's in 4th grade. She just got tested for math and she scored 50, I think it was, because she didn't understand.
Okay, so call my office tomorrow and speak with Esther. And we can connect you with the principal of that school, because Spanish is not a language that we have trouble getting resources for our curriculum. So that is something that I want to make sure the school is able to provide for your children. There's other programs. So for example, our Mandarin bilingual programs that we have opened, the teachers have really taken the curriculum and translated it themselves, because there's not that curriculum that's offered in Mandarin, but Spanish should not be the issue. And also, I'm not so sure in the upper grades, but I do know that 20 has bilingual programs. Yeah, and so if you could flash that back up again. I don't know, Rick, can you put the
they only have in Chinese.
In Chinese, okay.
Yeah.
So yeah, and so we can work with the principal to get those programs open if families are saying that they need that as well.
So if you don't have the 15 or so parents in a particular grade, what other options does like Johanna have? I mean, other than transferring her child to a school that has Spanish?
So we have ESL, ENL with supports, and we want to make sure that PS20 has access to the supports that they need to make sure the students are getting those supports within their English classes. Or if the parents are interested, they can transfer into one of our dual language or bilingual Spanish programs.
Johanna, do you understand? She should be.
I think she's muted.
Okay, thank you. Are there any other questions at this time? Sure, so Mr. Shah has another question?
Sure.
Not for Rick, for the superintendent.
Oh.
My son goes to PS 79. If we love to have him in the dual program in PS 21, you're saying we can apply for a transfer?
Is he in, well, we can see if there's seats, yeah, you can go to the, call me tomorrow, we'll see if there's room.
So it's too late for my daughter who's in 3rd grade, right?
We can talk about that, depends upon their language readiness, so they would say,
Programs, yeah.
for me, I can't, they do not recommend, and Rick, correct me if they do not recommend any new language of any type of bilingual entering after 1st grade if you don't know the language, correct?
Yeah, well, like for TBE, I'm not sure if this is what you're asking, but
I'm talking about dual language. So if I'm an English speaker that wants to be on the other side of a dual language program, right? And there's room, but now I'm in 4th grade and I have no experience in Spanish or Mandarin or Korean, whatever program I want to go into. They don't recommend putting somebody with a lack of language understanding that, you know, in 4th grade in a dual language program, correct?
I'd be worried about the student catching up, because that's a lot of time of skills to catch up on.
So if somebody wants to do that, they would have to do it in the early, in other words, by 1st, 2nd grade? It's recommended.
Yeah, I mean, because that's around when the TBE, the supportive part, stops. Like, we don't really do TBE past 2nd grade. Then if you want bilingual, it's going to be in that accelerated program for a dual language, yes.
Okay, understood.
Or they could be a speaker of the language already.
Yeah, so if you.
So if they could speak fluent English and Spanish and jump into a 3rd grade or 4th grade Spanish dual language program, and then master both languages as they go through school.
Yeah, there's no limit on that. I remember I taught in a dual language Spanish class when I was a teacher, and one of my most successful students was a boy from Senegal. His home language was French, and he was just excelling through the Spanish portion. Like, it was incredible. So yeah, there's no limit on that in terms of what language you speak.
So it just depends on the availability of seats, but there's no like entrance exam or like.
No, not like that. I mean, it's before we put a student in a dual language class, we want to ensure that they can handle that caseload, because it can be quite accelerated. As Danielle said, it's a lot more rigorous than some of the gifted classes. So it would really depend on the child. We want to make sure we're not putting too much added pressure on them.
Understood. Thank you, Rick.
You're very welcome.
So it's a fascinating topic, and like I say, I am a product of ELL, but when I went to school was many years ago, and my parents didn't really have a choice. So I wish, it's different times, and it's nice to see that in our community, because we come from so many different cultures, this is something that's really nice and important, for the community to understand. Thank you, Rick. Thank you, Superintendent.
You're welcome. Okay, thank you.
If anyone has questions, you can always reach out to Rick. He had his email on the, if you want to put your email back up there, or you can contact CEC, or you can contact the district office, and we'll try to direct you to the right resources. But thank you.
All right, thank you. Good night, everybody.
So we're moving on, and now we're going to, are you okay? Okay, so we're moving on. according to our agenda. And next we have Dr. Michael D'Antona, who's going to give us an update on the D25 assessment data.
Thank you, Mr. Pianzetto, and greetings to all of the CC members and families that are on the call. I'm going to just quickly share my screen. That's definitely in my near future because I cannot see it. No, I'm good.
You won't take mine either.
Yeah, I'll suffer through it just so that I can. My arm can only extend so far. Okay, so good evening, everyone. So for those of you who aren't aware, each of our schools just engaged in the process of the screening assessments. In District 25, we administer iReady in grades K through 8 for all of our children in mathematics. We administer the Acadience assessment for children in grades K through 2, and the iReady reading assessment for children in grades 3 through 8. I'm going to give you a brief rundown on where we are. This is kind of hot off the presses. The window just closed. But being that that this meeting was happening today, I wanted to make sure that I can share with you what the current information says about the performance of our children across our grade levels. I will share with you by subgroup. I will also share with you by domain, meaning the areas of that our children were assessed on and how we what our performance looks like in those areas at this time, in both reading and in mathematics. The first space that I will start is for our Acadience assessment. One of the things that you're going to see that is consistent across grade levels, you see two bars here. On the left-hand side, you'll see above benchmark, at benchmark, below benchmark, and well below benchmark. And it's a comparison between where we were in fall of 21 and where we are now in fall of 22. What you're going to notice is that the data is very, very similar across subgroups, across the entire district, whether it's the all-student subgroup, whether it's our Hispanic, our special education students. You're going to see that the trend from where we were last year is very similar in terms of where we're starting this year. Now, when you're looking at above benchmark, at benchmark, remember we're talking about children that are currently on grade level, so our children are not necessarily intended to be meeting all of our grade level standards already in November. So this is an ongoing process, and we will do these checkpoints as the year goes on. Currently, we have about 50% of our children that are on or above, comparatively speaking to a 1% difference from where we were last year at the same time. Our Hispanic learners, very similar pattern. You look at our bars as we're going through this, you're seeing a very, very similar pattern that exists between where we were last year, within 1% here or there, with either of the areas, whether it's above, at, below, or well below. The pattern exists that is very similar to where we were in fall of last year. 33.5% of our children, of our Hispanic learners, are currently on or above. In Acadience, now this is for children in grades K through 2. Our Black learners, we did see a little bit of a difference for our children that are above benchmark, comparatively speaking to where we were for the Acadience last year. But in general, very similar patterns that we see here. 42.4% of our Black learners are currently on or above grade level on the Acadience reading assessment, with a 3% difference in our children above, which is a nice starting off point to be above for our children to be above benchmark. Our Asian learners, similar types of scenario that you'll notice here. The patterns that you're seeing exist across our subgroups. About a 3% change here from where we were last year with our Asian learners as well. 58% of our Asian learners are currently on or above benchmark for our Acadience assessment. Our white learners, again, similar types of scenario. You'll notice that the bar for above benchmark is very similar to where it was last year. There is a little bit of a difference of children that are at benchmark. Now, be mindful, this does not include second graders that are now in third grade. These are our current kindergarten, first and second graders that are in play. And we do see a difference in here or there, but it's relatively similar to what it was last year. 53% of our children, white population is currently at benchmark. We do see a little bit of a decrease in terms of children that are well below, which is what we do want to see. Students with disabilities, we did see a slight change again with the children that are above benchmark, but in large part, we're seeing similar patterns from where we were in the previous year. 35% of our students with disabilities are currently at or above. Our English language learners, currently 29.5% of our children are currently at or above. The patterns exist here, though the one trend that we certainly do not want to see the children in that well below benchmark scenario, which is at a little bit of a higher rate from where we were in fall of last year by nearly 5%. Now, these are the areas that our kids are tested in when we're talking about the Acadians assessment. So over on the left-hand side, you'll see it says the reading composite status. That's basically the overall performance of our kids. 50% of our children are in that space of being on or above grade level. First sound fluency, phoneme segmentation, nonsense word fluency, oral reading fluency in terms of accuracy, retelling, and retell quality. These are the areas that the Acadians assessment really gets to. The space that's really important for us here and what we're learning more and more about is the space of reading instruction and providing opportunities for our kids to read are in these beginning spaces of practice for our children. You know, first sound fluency is about our children's ability to recognize the letter and the corresponding sound that goes along with it. And if we are in this space where our children are not getting this instruction, it's something that we need to work towards. And part of our instructional plan as a district this year is dedicated to making sure that programs like Foundations, programs like Hegarty are being implemented so that our children are receiving the tools that are necessary for them to become successful. So this window here is where we're really paying quite a bit of attention to, because these are the basic foundational skills that our kids need in order to become proficient readers by the time they get into third grade. And it was important for me to kind of give you that lens of, although it's the beginning of the year and although we have the remainder of the year to build on this work, it's important for our parents to know what our kids are being tested on through this Acadians assessment in grades K through 2. And the questions that we can ask of our building, of our schools and our teachers. So I noticed that my child is not doing well with their first sounds. What is it that I can do? What is it that you're doing currently with them in the classroom? So these are important things for our families to know. So I encourage you, please make sure that you're connecting with your building leaders, with your school, with your teachers around where your child currently is in this space of those foundational reading skills. Kindergarten, first, second grade, super important for building this base so that we go from that area of learning to read to reading to learn, which is so important for Superintendent Domingo. Yeah.
What is the last retell quality? What is that?
So basically a child's ability to retell a story too. So what was interesting, and Superintendent Domingo and I were just talking about this, is that our retell quality is rather high, at 88%. So it does call to the fact that our kids are being read to, that our kids are able to now hear and then share back the information. But when they're on their own, are they able to understand the correspondence between the letters and the sounds they make, the words and the individual sounds within a word? So those are things that our schools are really focused on right now.
And for families to know, we're reconnecting with phonics and phonemic awareness. That's going to be part of our literacy block. It's not going to be the only, but it will be the
because
part
that's
of
what
our
the need
literacy.
is.
Correct.
Correct.
And they're really important skills of learning to read, like first sound fluency in kindergarten. A child should be able to say, if a teacher asks them first sound max, they should be able to say and that they should be able to do that with 10 different sounds. So right now they're being tested on that, and we're finding that the numbers are lower in the phonics and phonemic awareness. So we're not taking away from the retelling, like Dr. Mike is saying, about reading to kids, doing read alouds, guided reading, all of that work will continue within the literacy block. But we are now making sure that our teachers are fully trained in those programs that he's talking about, the phonics and phonemic awareness of Foundations and Heggerty and that.
Yeah, and it's really the intentional focus on the areas that we know are the building blocks for our children and their reading success. And when we see that there is evidence that shows that this is not necessarily in a space where children have been successful so far, it's how do we make sure that we're emphasizing it inside of our curriculum on a routine basis.
So when we said in our goals about the first early childhood targets are about learning to read, these are the areas that we're targeting.
Yeah. And yeah,
Are the numbers similar populations?
Say it again.
Numbers similar for the different populations.
Well, yeah, so what you're going to see, and that's kind of why I called this out in terms of the Acadians reading performance, you're going to recognize that there's a difference in terms of overall reading proficiency when we go across subgroups, and that's kind of what I just highlighted here. There is a difference in terms of overall percentage of children that are currently at or above reading level, and it does vary across subgroups as what we just kind of reviewed. So there is a variation there. But even with that, what you'll see in a moment, this same pattern exists as we go through even our upper grades in certain areas like phonics, and I'm going to talk about that in just a moment. So from our Acadians into our iReady. Now iReady is for children in grades 3 through 8, which is what you see here. But we do have schools that also administer this assessment for children in kindergarten, first and second grade as well. And I think that's important because I want to show you something that's pretty interesting here that calls to what Acadians just showed us. So you'll see it from two perspectives, two different assessments that are showing something that's interesting for us as a community to continue to work towards. So overall, for our children in grades 3 through 8, the percentage of our children that were currently at on or above grade level was 36%. iReady does do it on a different scale. They have five grading spaces, whereas Acadians only has 4. They have it in a space from children that are mid or above, early on, 1 grade level below, 2 grade levels below, or 3 or more grade levels below. And for our families, I strongly encourage you connecting with your schools, making sure that you have the reports for your own children, so you know where it is that they are falling within this assessment, so that you can ask those questions of your teachers. How are we going to get those supports for my child if they are struggling in area A, B, or C? And what you will see from this assessment is that we do have a significant number of our children that are in this space of need of additional support. Now, we did, as you'll notice here, as you saw with the Acadians, the data is going to be relatively similar within a percentage point or two across the different subgroups that I'm going to share with you. Where this wound up bringing us last year was to around 63% of our children were proficient on the New York State assessment. When we look at overall projections, the projections have us in a similar space, and if we get to that space of what they call stretch growth, it does bring us to a range of in the 70%. So our goal is to get to that space by looking at what our kids currently need and working towards those needs in our classrooms. Our Hispanic learners, 19.29% of our Hispanic learners were currently on or above grade level. Similar pattern as what we saw last year. And if you recall from last month's presentation, our Hispanic subgroup was a subgroup that did see regression from where we were in 2019 to 2022. So it is a subgroup that we're going to continue to work towards making impactful decisions on as we go through the year, specifically in those target focus areas within phonics and phonemic awareness, as we just mentioned. Our Black learners, 24.78% of our Black learners are currently on or above grade level. There is a difference, a slight difference, but a difference for our Black learners in terms of of an increased starting place than where we were from last year at this time. Nearly a 5% difference between where we were last year and where we are now, which is something we do want to see. But albeit there's still a significant amount of work to be done here. Our white population, just under 36.7% of our white population is currently on or above grade level relationship to the I-Ready assessment. Again, similar types of patterns across here. You'll notice that it's by a percent or two. Our Asian learners, we have 47.57% of our Asian learners currently on or above. You will notice that there is a difference with the number of children that are currently above grade level. It did improve by nearly 3%. So we did have, from comparatively speaking to last year, so we are seeing, a positive trend in that respect. Hopeful to continue that progress throughout the year. Our students with disabilities, very similar to where we were last year. We have a lot of work to continue to go to improve on with our students with disabilities. 11% of our students are currently on or above grade level. And our L's, you'll notice that our mid or above grade level is significantly lower than our other groups, as well as the children that are early on grade level, which is around 3.8%. As a district, we were, we reformed over 20% of our children met proficiency at the end of last year. So we're looking to continue to build on that growth this school year. Now, this is the space that I wanted to bring you to, and it's color coded. On the left-hand side, you're going to see grade levels, grades K through 8. You'll see at the top, it's labeled PA, PH, HFW, VOC, and so on. I'm going to quickly go through what those stand for. PA stands for phonemic awareness. PH stands for phonics. HFW stands for high frequency words. VOC for vocabulary. Comp is for overall comprehension. Lit is for comprehension within the context of literature. And info is comprehension inside of informational text. As a district, what you will notice is that for the trend lines and the colors start varying as we start getting, as our children get into grades 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and 8 when it comes to the phonics, the phonemic awareness section. So our children are in a space of testing out of that area by the time they get into 3rd grade in terms of phonemic awareness. But notice what happens in phonics. 79% of our children in kindergarten, and this is not unusual, 79% of our children in kindergarten still need phonics support. 73% in grade 1, 67% in grade 2. Where we shouldn't necessarily see these similar trends are when we get into grades 3, 4, and 5, and so on. So, those building block spaces are something that we do need to continue to work on as a district. And certainly as we get into the older grades, you'll notice that vocabulary, even in kindergarten all the way through 8th grade, vocabulary is an area that we need consistent emphasis on. So we're building that academic language for our children to support comprehension in both of that, in both literature and in informational text. So the patterns and trends are similar to where we were last year. And we did make significant progress as the year went on, and I do believe that will continue to happen. And I'm confident that the structures that we have put in place to support some of those foundational reading skills will demonstrate growth as we go through the remainder of the year.
Dr. Mike, Joe just asked a good question I think is worth clarifying. So
Sure.
when we're talking about I-Ready and Acadians, the concern would be that our numbers are low around what we're testing for grade levels. Can you just explain that a little bit?
So say more.
So he's saying, so if you go back and you look at all of our students that are on grade level, 1 grade level below, 2 grade levels below, right now, currently.
Yes, so right now, this is currently where they are. What we have seen and what we will see is a progression through the year for the children that might not currently be on grade level. But 4th grade, there is a full 4th grade year that our children may need in order to be on 4th grade level by the end of the school year. So what we saw last year is what I anticipate will happen this year. where the,
Oh, you mean in terms of right now, but we're gonna
Yeah.
do better than that.
oh, yeah, no, so what I anticipate happening is that the upswing in terms of performance
Yes,
is going to
yes.
change from where it is now. So the percentages you see here are similar to last year, and the end result was our children performing at around 63% proficiency. The goal is, given the context of the things that we're putting into place, that we should, where we are looking towards improvement from where we were, at the end of the school year, given the things that we're doing. But the pattern for the start of the school year is similar to where we were in the fall of 21. So, for us, it's about continued growth from now until the end of the
One of
school
the
year.
things that they're saying, and what Dr. Mike and I have been going into schools with principals, unpacking this data with them and saying, like, if we did nothing and continue to do things the same way, we would get similar results to last year.
Yeah.
So right now, having this information is about disrupting that. So
Yeah.
one of the things that we're doing, going really strong in making sure, and we've already sent our instructional teams in, that phonics and phonemic awareness instruction in the early childhood grades is part of the literacy block, providing professional learning to make sure that our teachers are engaging in that with fidelity. And so we're going to see that changes, that the data gets better than it was last year.
Yeah, and that will happen. So the trend from where we are now should follow a similar pattern, but hopefully at a more accelerated rate than what we saw, this past year. That's what the goal is.
And I think what's important is one of the ways to think about when we look even at state exams, when students, let's just say your child scored the exact same score as they did the year prior, it's still considered a year of growth, right? Because you've had a year of learning. So if you got a 3, like you just got a low 3, and then the following year you got the same low 3, it's still been, you've had a year of learning and you still met standards. So I think it's, these are, yeah.
Great.
Yeah.
Yeah. So now just kind of moving into math, again, similar types of patterns exist here as they did with reading, with slight variations. Again, the variations being about 2%. Usually the percent is on the improvement side, not on the on the lower side. So the percentage of our children starting off at mid or above is slightly above where we started last year, but relatively, the 1 or 2% is where that starting place is. In general, for us as a district, we're just under 36%, 35.66% of our children are currently at or above grade level at this time. And again, this is something that will progress as the year goes on, as the pattern existed from last year to this year. This is for our all students population. For our Hispanic learners, the starting place here is something that we are certainly working toward and will continue to. 11.36% of our Hispanic learners, you'll notice that there is the significant bar of children that are currently in that 3 grade levels below space, which we do need to continue to work towards improving, as well as the bar that's in that 1 grade level below, which are a significant percentage of our children are also falling into. But in terms of relationship, the relationship between last year and this year is very, very similar.
But are these considered L's or not?
No, these are Hispanic learners. So you will have in any of our subgroups a combination of things potentially. So a Hispanic learner can also be a student with disabilities, can also be an English language learner, can fall into multiple subgroup categories. And they're all in this particular slideshow, one subgroup in and of itself, yes. But it can be broken down in multiple different ways. Our Black population currently at 9%, children on or above grade level. Again, similar type of pattern here exists, with the difference where there was a larger subgroup of children that are in that 1 grade level below, comparatively speaking to where it was last year, and a reduction in the number of children that are in that 3 grade levels below space. and 2 grade levels below space. But having said that, this is a subgroup that we're going to continue to work towards making those improvements as the year goes on. We have engaged in training in Algebra for All and our work with Bank Street College. So we do believe in the training supports that we have engaged in with them, and are looking forward to a more progressive year than this year than we did have last. Our Asian learners currently at 53.58%, currently on or above grade level. You'll see that there was a difference here in terms of mid or above, and a reduction in the number of children that are currently in that 1 grade level below, 2 grade levels below, 3 grade levels below in terms of a starting point. Progression here is something that we're looking towards as well as the year goes on. Starting place certainly different from the previous 2 subgroups that we just talked about. Our white population, 28.32% of our white learners are currently on or above grade level. Similar type of scenario, within 1% of where we were last year at this time. The good news in respect is that it was at a higher rate than where we were last year at this time. Our students with disabilities currently at 10.72% on or above grade level. Pattern similar to what we had seen in last year's assessment, with a reduction in children that are currently 3 or more grade levels below standard. Our English language learners, 8.56% of our English language learners are currently mid or above grade level. Here, we did see an increase in children that are 3 or more grade levels below. So this is a space that we are going to continue to work towards and engage in that analysis of information with our schools to support our English language learners as best we can moving forward. Now, what brings me to the spaces that we are assessed on in this particular assessment. We have numbers and operations, which is the first column, algebra, measurement, and geometry. These are the 4 areas that our kids are assessed on. What you will notice, and similar pattern in terms of the bars in children that are in need of additional support, our children in the upper grades had fewer needs in the later grades in these areas as compared to children in grades K, 1, 2, and 3. You'll notice that the percentages are significantly higher in those grade levels, comparatively speaking, to our upper grade. And for us as a district, you'll notice that one particular domain was at a higher rate, comparatively speaking, to the others, and that was the geometry domain. Typically speaking, across grade levels was the highest in terms of overall range when you're looking at the number of grade levels and percentages in the 60s all the way to 81%. The other grade levels, you'll notice that it's dipping down into that 49, 56%, 53% range. So there are a lot of questions that our schools are asking just in terms of continuing to build on our mathematics work. It was a space pre-pandemic of continued strength and growth, and we do believe that we are going to move back into that space as we work through this school year. So that's the current state of where we are. I'm really looking forward to continuing this work with our building leaders and our teachers as we move through the year to build on this work as we go through.
I just want to add one last thing. Yep. So something really important that comes up a lot just in terms of iReady. So there is a way that the assessment measures statistically whether or not students rush through the test. Yes. Something that we ask that parents speak to their children about. They take iReady 3 times a year, and we know that we do not want to overtest our students, but here's the problem. Sometimes Dr. D'Antona and I will meet with students where their report card grades do not align to iReady because we're looking for validity in both, right? And what we wind up hearing from kids, especially in middle school, like I hate it already, I just rushed through it. So we spend that time explaining to them why we use it and the importance of why we use it, the decisions that we make as teachers and educators. So in conversations with your children, please remind them to show what you know, not to be stressed over it, but show us what you know so we can properly plan to support our students or provide acceleration.
Yeah. Good point. Yeah, I think Sana had her hand up. I don't know if Sana had a question.
Yes, hi. Thank you, Dr. Dentona. Very interesting. I wanted to know, how does this data compare to other, let's say, more competitive districts, and the data and the patterns within, obviously? How does it compare to more competitive districts, if I am allowed to say more competitive? And how does it compare to, let's say, citywide or statewide benchmarks?
So in terms of the rest of the city, what I have is what I have access to in terms of district performance. They have not necessarily shared, here's what iReady performance looks like across the borough, across other districts. This is something that I have immediate access to, so we shared it with you guys tonight. Should there be a breakdown of what that looks like across other districts, I'd be happy to share what that looks like for you. At this time, I don't have that information to share. I just have, how we're performing in district.
Thank you.
Sure, but if I do, get my hands on it, I'd be happy to share with the community.
And do other districts have the same type of assessment data? I mean, yeah.
So schools have an opportunity to select whether they will use assessments like iReady, or some districts use Map Growth, which is another assessment tool that some districts have chosen to use. I cannot say that necessarily all districts have all of their schools using the same assessment. We here believe that was important, and our building leaders collaboratively decided on that. I can't intelligently tell you whether or not other school districts did that, but
I just want to add to that. So just in talking about this, I think it's important for parents to know is that iReady is testing things, and Acadians is testing topics on grade level that students may not have learned yet. So let's just say something in spring is when they will learn it. But the important thing is, and why we need to know all of that information, is so teachers know what students may already know, so they don't accentuate that and then maybe lift the type parts of a unit when they get to it, what students may be struggling with. I will say I can't speak to this year's data. I can speak to some comparisons in my conversation with iReady, is that our iReady data across the year last year was above average nationally from the work that they were doing with other schools across the nation. So although it seems low right now, it could be possibly because they're testing our students on things they may not know, so we can better plan when those.
Which is why you see the progression by the end of the year.
So that's why it's important for parents to understand that, these assessments are taking to improve the education of their child, right?
Yes.
So it's a positive thing.
Yeah, absolutely, which is why I will say over and over again, it's so important to know what those outcomes are. And to be able to ask those questions when you receive the report. Sometimes, although iReady sends home a user-friendly report to families, if you're not sure and you just let it be, then you're not necessarily asking the question that might be able to help you at home too. So really super important to know, have that knowledge base for sure.
Are there any other questions from anybody on the council, and then any hands raised for Dr. Dentona?
Okay, and as you guys know, I will continue to update you as new information comes out. Superintendent Domingo, and certainly I myself believe that you having this information only allows you to support your own decisions and questions that you're going to be able to ask at the school level. So we're going to continue to update you and make sure that you're aware of where we currently are.
Thank you, Dr. D'Antona. Another fascinating discussion, right? All good things, and we appreciate all the work that you do for our district, and that's what makes us one of the better districts, right? It's always important to plan ahead and understand what our student body consists of. Okay, so now I'm going to move on to our superintendent's report, and I present to you our superintendent, Danielle Domingo.
Thank you, Joe. So just going back to one of the things that we were just speaking about in terms of questions for families to ask your school. As you know, all of CEC meetings are pre-recorded, so you will have access to this, especially now that parent-teachers conferences are coming up. So iReady students, the way students are performing on these assessments, where the child is, what are some of the things that the teacher is planning to support your child, can all be questions based on this information. And it is also aligned to what we expect, what I expect, and my team supports around, number one, knowing students well and strengthening the instructional core. So I think tonight we're able to show you how we are working to make that happen. Okay, so my report is happening in enrollment. High school applications are out. You can join virtual events on high school admissions. You can visit schools.nyc.gov. For students entering 9th grade in fall 2023, welcome letters are now available in My Schools account or from your child's current New York City public school. Families who are interested should register for the specialized high school admissions test at www.schools.nyc.gov/SHS. And the high school application is now open. You can list 12 program choices in order of preference, and the deadline to apply is December 1st.
When is the Shazam exam,
This Friday.
Yes. Yes, I'll double check after.
The Shazat is a testing window and it's offered in the schools. Was that the question?
Yes, you wanted to know when is the window.
Yeah. I don't know if I don't have that right now, but there's a window.
Yeah, well,
Thank you, Louis.
thanks, Louis. Maybe you can look that up then, okay? Since you, with your sense, thanks. Middle school applications are open and the deadline to apply once again is December 1st. Students will receive offers in April, and families received a welcome letter from their schools with directions to setting up a My Schools account. Excellent. Okay. So happening in enrollment in District 25, all middle school applications and open house information, you can visit www.d25.nyc/middle school for information about middle school open house events. And I want to speak about the final information about our middle school screen programs, and then speak about middle school choice, and then answer any questions that families in our district may have. So I want to say thank you to all of our middle school principals for engaging with their SLTs and their community regarding adding screen programs as part of one option of our middle school choice options. The following schools have been approved to add one 6th grade Central Screens program class for next year. We have already checked the middle school applications, and these screen programs are options for our families. Any student in the district can apply to the screen program, but the criteria for selection are 4th grade core grades. So the 3 screen programs are at IS 25, PSMS 164, and junior high school 189. So each of these schools are currently building their screened programs. So if you are interested in how they will manage them, some will have different levels of acceleration. You should contact each of these 3 schools individually. Each of the programs is only 1 class, so seats are limited. Any District 25 family or family who has a child that attends a District 25 elementary school can choose to add any of these screen programs to their application. It will already be an option when you log in, alongside any other District 25 middle school option. I had mentioned the criteria. There is no other criteria for these 3 screen programs. And if a student applies to a screen program and doesn't match to a seat there, they will be considered for other programs listed on their applications. So families with questions about screen programs should call the middle school directly. I just want to make sure that our families understand something that we're very proud of in District 25, and that is all of our options and choice that we offer our students and families as they're applying to middle school. So as I had said earlier, these 3 screen programs are just another option, but as part of middle school choice, families have zoned options, so you can apply to your zone middle schools. We also have application schools such as 379 and Bell Academy. Families can also apply to our K-8s and our 6 to 12 schools, as well as our larger middle schools. So there are many different choices that our families have when choosing a middle school for your child. Next, okay. I'm also really excited that this month we are launching our District 25 newsletter. The goal of this newsletter is to deepen relationships, between our public schools and our community members by keeping each other updated on news and events that are happening across the district. So I just want to show you an example of our D25 NYC newsletter. This will be available monthly on our district website. These are our students. Highlights. It also keeps you into our Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram accounts. I open up with an introductory letter with information to families district-wide. This month we're talking about introducing Team Awesome, and then some of the events that went on that I had already spoken about at our past meeting, just different activities that our schools are engaged in. My listening and learning tours are completed yesterday at PS 201 was my last listening and learning tour, but feedback from the community, I will now start a listening and learning tour with our students. So we're excited to begin that. I'll be spending some time with students in asking them multiple questions. So I'm very excited about this newsletter. I will briefly mention it every month at our CEC meetings, but parents can have access to this all month long. Okay, Marissa, if you can go back to, all right, so our monthly newsletter is going to be sent to all District 25 team members, public school principals, local elected officials, CEC members, DLT members, and all District 25 schools are going to be reminded monthly to send us pictures and events. So we're really excited. Anyone who's interested can log into our website, but you can also actually subscribe to our newsletter and it will be sent to you directly. Okay, we can skip that, Marissa. And this is Marissa Martin, who keeps up with our social calendar. She wants you to visit www.d25.nyc social to keep up with all the great things happening in the district. Thank you, Marissa, for all the amazing work that you've been doing with that. And that's it.
Thank you, Superintendent. You keep making our district proud to be where we are, and we appreciate everything that you do. Dr. D'Antona also put in the chat the test dates for the Shazam. I guess it goes by category, so whoever is interested can click on that.
So it's the specialized high school section of the DOE website, And in there, they have a whole bunch of information in terms of practice test materials and locations for the testing.
Perfect, so that's important for our families to know. So I'm gonna move on, and before, I'm gonna just jump around a little bit. Before we discuss the resolution, I wanna talk about the open position that we have on our council. And I believe, Carly, just correct me if I'm wrong, so Crystal has not come back, right? Okay, so Eden, are you here? If you're here, and you are still interested in the position, I know we took a vote. And it was, we had basically not been able to vote on an admission because we had 2 candidates for 1 seat. I'm told that
Yes,
Crystal is no longer able to, she withdrew her candidacy. So you are the only candidate, if you're still interested. If you
Yes,
want
I
to
am.
make a statement to the council, and then we'll have an official vote. Are you okay with that, Eden?
Yes, sir.
Okay. I'll give you a minute or 2 if you want to speak to the council.
Sure. Sorry, it's a little noisy. I have a sick child home tonight. Good evening, everyone. As you all know, I have been very involved in coming to the meetings and wanting to be a member of the CEC. I really want to be able to make a difference in our entire district. Special needs children, all the different children's with English learners, people coming in with things like that. I really feel that I could truly make a difference. I too have 2 children of my own that are in our district, very young age still, so I plan to be around for a very long time. And I really think that I could really start helping to make a difference for our district, and I hope to be able to do so for a long time. So I hope that I can start this journey and continue on. Thank you.
Thank you, Eden. So that you understand, I mean, this position would be filling in the vacancy, which would be through June of 2023, as we all would have to run for election for the next term. Because every member sitting on this council right now is serving through June of 2023. And then we would have to submit our intent to for election for the next term. But I'm glad that you are still interested. We have to officially vote you on, so I'm going to ask Carly to go through the calendar. I'm sorry, the roll call, so we can hopefully obtain a quorum, and you can join us effective immediately. Correct, Juliana? Juliana is our FACE representative. If she could just confirm once we have a quorum, if Eden is able to join us with the voting power this evening.
So Eden needs to sign her oath of office.
Can't hear you.
But she can.
You're not coming in very clearly, Juliana.
Is this any better?
This is much better, yes.
Okay. Eden needs to sign her oath of office before she votes.
Okay, so we can technically do the vote now and then make arrangements to sign the oath of office, so she technically can officially vote as of the next meeting, correct?
Absolutely.
Okay, thank you for that clarification. Let's go through the roll call for the vote.
Ready? Joseph Di Benedetto.
I approve.
Winyo. Approve. Emery Knable. Emery. I'll come back. Joseph Chow.
Approve.
Sung Young Lee. Approve. Rashmi Krishnaraj.
Are we saying approve?
Yes.
Oh, okay,
Or
approve for Eden, the candidate?
Yes.
Sorry, the voice is just throwing it. Okay, then I approve. Or
Michelle
I
Frederick.
guess vote yes.
Okay. Michelle Frederick. Michelle. Sana Tayeb.
Approve.
You have 6, but I don't. Anne Marie Canable.
Amber's there, I don't know if she.
Approve. I wasn't able to unmute before. I had to
Okay.
be reset.
Thanks. Michelle Frederick. Michelle Frederick?
So we have 7 yes, which is more than quorum. Is Michelle, okay. So, Eden, welcome to the council. We look forward to working with you. You will officially have to sign the oath of office. You can speak to Carly or Juliana and get that in, and then we can have you officially join us in our December meeting. Congratulations, Eden. Okay. So now moving along on our, you have a comment? Sure, so we're not into new business yet. I mean, you want to talk about it, or because we have a resolution on the table, so you want to do the resolution first? Council members who are not here should have received the proposed resolution that's been on the table from our last, which is based out of our last meeting where we had high school admissions and the screened high school programs. So I'm asking if there's any council member that would like to read the proposed resolution, and then we can discuss whether we want to take a vote on it. Does anyone here offer to read the resolution? If no one does, then I will read it.
Yes, Mr. President.
Thank you.
You want to take turns?
We can take, are you offering, Wendy?
Yeah.
Okay, so we'll take 3 paragraphs each? Yeah. Okay, so this is the proposed resolution urging for merit-based admissions policies for screened high school programs. Wendy and I will read it, and then we'll take a vote, or we'll discuss if anybody has any issues with it or comments, and then whether or not we'll take it up for a vote. We'll fix the typos as well, okay? So I'll start reading it. Whereas a February 16, 2022 Department of Education DOE press release states, every child deserves to attend a great school that will prepare them to succeed in college, their career, and beyond, and that starts with expanding access to high-quality learning opportunities for our young people through the admissions process. And whereas the random selection admissions method, also known as lottery admissions, an initiative designed by the previous administration, was intended to expand opportunities for accelerated learning this year, particularly for high-achieving students who have been underrepresented historically. And whereas the unintended result of using a random selection method is that high-achieving students, whether from underrepresented groups or not, were systematically penalized and placed at a significant and discriminatory disadvantage to compete for admissions at screened programs that in the past would have guaranteed them admission offers. And
whereas for the fall 2022 admission cycle, an excessive number of high-achieving students, including those from underrepresented groups, did not receive offers to any screened programs due to receiving an unfavorable randomly assigned number, thereby conflicting with the DOE goal that every child deserves to attend a great school. And whereas upon receiving such devastating and unjust results under a dishonest admission process, District 25 parents have summarily removed their children from DOE schools to attend private schools or move their residences to neighboring Long Island, Westchester, and to other states. And whereas in implementing a policy goal to increase opportunities for students in underrepresented groups, due care should have been taken to ensure that high achieving students are not arbitrarily excluded from the opportunities that they rightly deserve. Having all of their hard work in school completely nullified by a randomly assigned number, and
whereas a random selection method unquestionably discourages students' motivation to excel, using game theory for a scenario in which random selection does not guarantee rewards for high achievement, rational students will naturally conclude that the optimal path to pursue is not to excel in school, but rather to perform at the level of mediocrity. And whereas another unintended and disastrous effect of a random selection admissions method is that it increases enrollment of students with unexceptional grades who are not even of those in the targeted underrepresented groups. And whereas admissions based on random selection is a clearly flawed policy instrument, it must be replaced with targeted policy that directly increases opportunities for high achieving students in underrepresented groups and does not inadvertently benefit underachieving students of any group. And
whereas diversity in admissions is an existing DOE admissions priority that can achieve such a policy goal, and whereas a March 9th, 2022 DOE press release states all future enrollment and admissions processes will be decided in lockstep with communities in order to develop policies that best meet the needs of New York City students. And also states, acknowledge that there is no one-size-fits-all solution that benefits all types of learners while expanding high quality and rigorous programs. And whereas the new criteria for 2022 to 2023 school year states that applicants to screened high school will be set in groups based on the average of their final 7th grade courses only. Students in group 1 will be classified as falling within the top 15% of their school, all schools citywide, and their average is at least 90, which will still be submitted on a lottery basis. Those students in the top 5% may not receive offers to screened school programs if they receive an unfavorable randomly assigned number.
therefore, be it resolved, CEC 25 urges the Chancellor to eliminate the random selection admissions methods for screened programs intended to increase opportunities for students in underrepresented groups, and instead to permit high school administrators to participate in the existing Department of Education Diversity in Admissions initiative by setting aside specific numbers or a proportion of seats for students in underrepresented groups, such as those who are low income, English language learners, are in the child welfare system, or live in temporary housing. And be it further resolved that CEC 25 urges the Chancellor to ensure that high achieving students are rewarded for their hard work, such that admissions is based on rank order of a student's composite scores, both within the group of seats set aside for students in underrepresented groups and for those within the group of all other students. And be it further resolved that CEC 25 urges the Chancellor to grant high school administrators the prerogative to determine the specific screening criteria, course grades, state exam scores, essays, online assessments, interviews, student portfolios, etc. And the weights of such criteria are to best serve the students enrolled in the unique screen programs in their schools, and also to customize such criteria to increase enrollment of students from underrepresented groups. So that we just recited the terms of the proposed resolution. I'll now entertain discussion amongst the council members on the language or any points regarding this topic.
Thank you, John Bolton. I just would like to add the word all in the last paragraph before courses. I think it's a great idea to, yeah.
Which paragraph on
The
the
last one.
resolution?
Defer the reserve, yes, the last paragraph.
So can you specifically say where you
The
want?
second line, right after the open parentheses, you said course grades, it should be all course grades.
Oh, okay, so not the core courses, correct?
All courses.
So all as opposed to core, right?
I think it's a great idea because we're leaving aside seats for the category of underserved already. According to unofficial stats, school was not able to put in 25% of the student or screen into a particular program because their math level was too low. So this will solve that problem too.
Does anyone have any objection to Mr. Child's request to be more specific and add language on that last paragraph referencing all course grades as opposed to core courses only?
No objection.
I have no objection. I'm not sure if any council members who are here virtually have any objection to that language change.
I don't see anybody. Do you see anybody raising their hand?
All council members should be able to unmute themselves.
Okay. Okay, is there any other discussion of what we have before the table? Okay, so I think if no one has any other problem or question on the council,
Hold on, Anne-Marie's,
I think Anne Marie has a comment, right?
Anne-Marie, give me 1 second. Anne-Marie should be able to.
Anne Marie should be able to comment.
Sorry, I was just trying to say no objections, but it wasn't letting me unmute because I was not a host.
Sorry. Okay.
Sorry.
I just want to make sure, before we take it up for the vote, if any of our council members who are here in person or virtually have any questions, comments regarding the proposed resolution before we take it up for a vote.
Hey, Joe, this is Rashmi.
Hello, Rashmi.
Hi, can you please summarize it for those who are not able to understand, just like a 3-line summarization of the resolution, what we are trying to achieve and from what we are digressing?
So at our last CEC meeting, I'm not sure if you were here, we had somebody from the high school admissions, Matthew Brocchini, come in and speak about the high school admissions process and certain changes because there were calls in our community from certain families where their child scored in the top 3%, let's say, and did not make one of their 12 selected schools because they just received a bad number on the lottery. So the call here is for to do away with the lottery system and go back to the merit-based decision-making for these screen type school programs. So that's what we're talking about. So the resolution is kind of it's kind of detailed because it talks about what the concerns were from the parents in our community, but what we're looking for is to basically bring back the merit-based admissions process because the way we understand it now, it's going to be based on a lottery where the top group being group 1 would be the top 15%, and those that have a 90 or above average based upon their 7th grade core courses only, taking no consideration into the state exams or other courses. Mr. Shaw, you want to specify a little further? Do you have any comments or any other council member? Okay.
Okay. Yeah, I
If
understand.
that answers your question, Roshni.
So thank you for summarizing it. I did understand the same, but just wanted to double confirm because the voice is just running in and out of when we were reading and what I got.
So that's why
details.
that's why, I mean, I love the fact that we have in-person meetings, because I can't, I'm not a tech expert, and I'm sorry that you can't hear me, but if you cannot hear us, please let Carly know so we can.
I wanted to double confirm it. Yes, I can hear you. I just wanted to double
Got it.
confirm that what I understood is what is the fact. Yes.
Thank you, Roshni. Any other comment or question?
I'm good.
Okay, so if there are no other questions or comments by our CEC council members, because this resolution is being submitted on behalf of the CEC council members, so that's why I'm limiting it to the council members. Let's go for the roll call vote.
No. You ready? Joseph Di Benedetto.
I vote to approve the resolution.
Wing Yu. Approve. Emery Knable.
Approve.
Joseph Chow.
Approve.
Sung Young Lee. Approve. Rashmi Krishnaraj.
Approve.
Michelle Frederick, are you back? Sana Tayel.
Approve.
You're 7 votes.
So we have 7 votes. So we're waiting for Michelle didn't vote yet, but we have a quorum, and the resolution will then be circulated for signatures and submitted to the chancellor's office. Thank you, everyone. Job well done. The community understands. We've heard them, and we are now submitting our resolution to the city. Thank you. At this time, I would like to now move on to new business. So before we get to the public speaking portion, I think Wendy had some comments. Sorry.
Hi, good evening, everyone. I just want to give a big thanks to the PTA of PS 107. They did a really good job in putting together 107 first in-person event, social event since the pandemic. On last Friday, October 28th, we had a monster mash at the school. It was a huge success. We had 600 attendees, students and parents. Yeah, it really exceeded our expectation, and we had to tell a lot of people afterwards that we can't let them in, and attendees have to purchase tickets in advance. We had pizza, a DJ, a magician. So it was very well organized, and I thank you to the parents, volunteers, and PTA at 107. Thank you.
Thank you, Wendy. Does any other council member have new business or something they'd like to present to the community? Okay, so now we will go to the public speaking portion. And again, for the interest of time, I would ask that the public speaking portion be limited to 2 minutes per speaker. I know that Mr. Howard Wong was here from Assemblymember Nili Rosick's office, but I think he's no longer here. I wasn't sure if he wanted to speak. And always a pleasure to see our elected official join us. But he's not here. I just left. Is there anyone else on the list? I think, Venus, are you on the list? Are you on the list? Okay. We always have the pleasure of Venus Ketchum joining us. So I'm going to start with Venus, and then we'll move on to the chat. Okay. Again, you have a 2-minute time limit. Thank you, Venus.
You're welcome. It's exciting to try to fit it into 2 minutes. I just want wanted to say again, welcome back to all the parents and families for the 2022-2023 school year. My name is Venus Ketchum. I'm a parent and community leader in education, started in my home district 28, spread out to 25 with the first district I started visiting outside of my district. And now I've visited every school district in Queens and some in Brooklyn. Again, I want to encourage parents to sign up to speak in the chat. When I speak, it's not to hear myself talk, it's so that you gain the confidence and the courage to share your concerns, share your successes of what's happening at your school, like we just heard about the extraordinary event at that school before I'm speaking. And I also wanted to put a call out to parent coordinators and school staff. I'm starting to contact schools again, and it's an exciting time when I do that. I call schools and I say, hi, I would like to know when your PTA and SOT meeting. And I get a lot of interesting responses. So I want to ensure, especially in this thriving and exciting district, that all staff members, secretaries, school aides, anybody that picks up the phone, anybody that greets parents in person, knows the importance of parent education and parent empowerment, and when asked those questions, gives that information freely, understands that these are public meetings, that it should be on your website, that every staff member who answers the phone should know when their PTA meeting is. It's just something that should be common knowledge. With the chancellor's commitment to uplifting parents, I always find it interesting that secretaries are like, I don't know, check the website. And I've already checked the website and it's not there. So again, this is just for training for parent coordinators, other staff members, to ensure that you know this is the most important information. We are the most important piece of the puzzle, parents. And the complaint is always that parents are not involved. But when I call a school and they don't know, my antennas go up. So please check your websites and make sure they're up to date with full information to empower parents. And I made it, yes!
Thank you, Venus. So we always appreciate your coming to our meetings and your words of wisdom. And you are definitely an advocate for parents in the community. So we hope that your message is heard by the community. Do we have anyone else on the list? Okay, so if there are no other hands raised, then I think we, well, I'd like the community to know that we have our Chancellor's Town Hall scheduled for January. And we will discuss during the business meeting where we'll plan on having the meeting and the logistics of the meeting. The notice will go out to the community well in advance, but if that is it, we will adjourn the calendar meeting and we'll take a 2-minute break before starting our business meeting. Calendar meeting is adjourned. Thank you. We will see you. If you don't join us for our business meeting, our next meeting is December 7th, Wednesday, December 7th. At 7 p.m. Thank you.
Okay, we'll take a 2-minute break and then we'll jump right into it, right?
So sorry. Let's do that again. Okay. Sorry. Joseph Di Benedetto.
Present.
Wing Yu. Present. Anne-Marie Knable.
Present.
Joseph Chow.
Present again.
Sorry. Sung Young Lee.
Present.
Rashmi Krishnaraj.
Here.
Michelle Frederick. Sana Tayeb.
Present.
Okay, so we're all present, right? We're good? We have, and Eden is still here. Well, Eden's gonna join us next month, right? Yes. So we finally have a new member, which is wonderful. We still don't have the borough president appointees, but we now have, how many are we? We now have officially 9, right? And, you know, I think the extension to the public meeting law. I don't know if it's gonna go through December. I think we get that like on a month by month basis, so. We already have a resolution, or we already modified our bylaws to allow for a hybrid meeting in case we are called to come back, all of us in person. We can still do our meetings in a hybrid fashion, but we would have to have 6 members present in person for quorum for voting, so.
When does the current extension
Well,
21st.
It's through November 21st, but I think in the past, it's always been extended another month. So I don't know what's gonna happen for December, but we're prepared just in case we all have to come back in person, that we can still do our meetings by hybrid, as long as we have 6 members present in person. If that's the case, then we can still vote on what we need to vote on. Okay. So we really need to start working on preparing for our town hall, which I'm told is scheduled. Juliana, you're here, right?
Yes, I am.
Okay, so I'm told it's scheduled for January 3rd, between 6:30 and 7:30. Is that a Tuesday?
I believe it's a Tuesday.
Okay, so that, I'm assuming that will be in lieu of our January meeting?
Typically, yeah.
Right, because our next meeting would have been January 4th, which is my birthday, which, yeah, I can go out and celebrate. If we have the town hall on the 3rd, then we're not meeting on the 4th, correct?
Yeah.
Okay, so that was already been, we don't have, in other words, the chancellor confirmed that date?
Yes, the chancellor has confirmed that date.
Okay, and I know it's gonna be a hybrid town hall, but is the chancellor gonna be there in person?
The chancellor will be there in person.
That's wonderful. So now we need to talk about a location. I know I've been pushing for years Flushing High School. Unfortunately, Flushing High School is a beautiful school. If you've never been there. So it's a beautiful building. The auditorium is absolutely beautiful, but unfortunately, it's not handicap accessible. So we're not able to do a town hall there. I thought it would have been a nice site. So we need to find a site that is handicap accessible. Juliana, you had given us some recommendations. We have Q20, Q107, Q21. I also had a discussion with the superintendent and was wondering if you guys would be interested in 499, which apparently has a big auditorium and a nice auditorium, and parking is good there. And I think it is handicap accessible.
That it is.
And it's near Queens College, so it's centrally located, and during that period, Queens College is closed, so it's not gonna be a location that might be a problem to access, but that's not my call, it's for all of us to decide, so let's start with. Yes.
Julianne, does Space have an estimated number that they would want to see in auditorium seats?
It's the Office of Space Management that looks at the estimated number. I'm not sure what that number is.
No, I know the numbers of the buildings. I just didn't know if when they plan, do they say like we'd like to have a minimum of 200 seats or something like that? When the chancellor's team plans the meetings.
Right. Space Management has that number and I don't know the number. I'm sorry, I don't know what the number is. It's not a number that Space sets.
Yeah, I mean.
So the issue with, we were talking about it, and so Q21, it has a small auditorium, so we weren't sure that if they could, handle, in the past, we've had a pretty good turnout for our town halls, right? But we haven't had an in-person town hall. The last one was with Chancellor Porter, and that was all virtual. So you know.
It was Space Management that gave me 21 as a potential option.
Okay, but 21 is what the auditorium is not, it
No, the auditorium need there, no.
needs a lot of work, so.
You could do 185, it's right across the street.
So we've done town halls with the chancellor at 185. We've done a number of town halls at 107. We'd like to, I don't want to show favoritism towards this portion of Queens, that's why, we were talking about something that's either more centrally located or on the south side, right? But 499 is what, centrally located, but again, I don't know, that's my opinion, I'll take whatever you guys on the council want to talk about in terms of a location.
It's a beautiful auditorium. I would just, I just have to get the confirmation of seating. I know there's more than 300 seats.
Yeah.
So, but it is handicap accessible. There's an elevator right when you walk in the door. It's street level entrance. And, as Joe said, parking shouldn't be a problem because Queens College is not in session at that time.
Where is 499?
It's on Reeves Avenue, right around the corner from John Baum High School.
Oh,
Right next to Queens College.
Yeah, it's actually on Queens College campus.
Yes.
yeah.
So, what are your thoughts, Scott?
Yeah, that's fine. Just right now, 107 have a lot of construction surrounding the
Yes.
building, and so, yeah.
But I think our last town hall was at 107, if I'm mistaken, right? I think with Carranza,
Yes.
we did it at 107, if I remember.
Yes,
Or
that
was
was
it
the last one.
185?
No, there was one at 107 in Carmen.
No, we had it with
Carmen was at
Carranza.
Was it
185.
Carranza?
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah, I remember.
But we've never, I'm on the council almost 10 years and I don't recall ever going to 499.
No, the only school we went to on that side of the district was 165, but I think,
165 was the-
but I don't know if they're fully accessible and that could be a problem. I know that.
Does anybody?
Yeah, you can't.
No, it has stairs to the auditorium.
They have the stairs to the
and
auditorium.
Even in the front entrance,
Yeah.
They have to open up the side door there to let people in. The
Yeah.
auditorium right there.
Yeah.
That they could do. If they.
But I-
And then the elevator.
Their auditorium is small though, 165.
Yeah, and I think it was
It's
okay when
small.
we had it there.
So we would still need to know from the school, right, from the principal, if they're all okay with us.
Oh, yeah, she's fine. Yeah, I already addressed that. Carly, you have that list remember from years ago, it had the seat numbers and whether or not it was air conditioned or not?
It's in my office, and I have to look.
Yeah.
look for it.
I have to look for it too, but it's.
So the good thing about January 3rd, we don't need air conditioning. Right, so that's a good thing. Is there anyone else here or virtually that has any comments or suggestions?
No, I'm good.
So can we come to agreement on a school and then we'll ask the superintendent to see if we can.
Should we do like our top 3? So
Yeah, we
so in case,
yeah.
the principal at our first choice school.
Okay, are you guys okay with that?
Top 2.
Sorry, what was the suggestion?
So we're trying to find the location. So we have about 3 or 4 different schools that can host a town hall. So we're trying to decide which school, right? So Wendy's saying, why don't we just say, what our top 3 or top 2 choices are, so we can narrow it down,
Makes sense.
okay? I'm okay with that.
So far, I
Do we know
have
what the choices are? So we have
20, PS 20, 185, 499, and 79. You said 107 had construction, and 21 was for some, I don't know why I lost it up. It's too small.
20 is,
There were 2 of those, right? when you were looking. Right, it's like this-
Right on the
Yeah, no, they-
left-hand side.
Yeah.
They don't have stairs, they have stairs.
I think
Do
they
they
have
have a
I
ramp?
think they have a ramp. I have to double check. But 20 is in the heart of Flushing. I know,
Oh,
yeah, so you might want to consider that too. Parking might not be
Parking
bad, but it's
wise?
very good for public
Public
transportation.
transportation
Yeah.
wise.
I don't know how many, community members come through public transportation. I know because we're used to this portion of Queens, it doesn't really have much public transportation, but it's something to consider. But why don't we just go through the council members, we'll do the top two choices, and we'll take it from there, if we can get narrowed down. Is that okay?
185 is right across the street from 21, and we've had
Yeah, it's
events
by
there
Memorial.
before.
Yeah, that's right. That's right.
It's around the corner from here. Yeah, like, right, with the Memorial Field, is that?
By Memorial Field.
Yeah.
I think it's, Willis Point of Parsons.
Oh.
Yes, yeah, right over there, yeah.
So you want to go through the council members, Carly? Just write it down.
Okay.
So I say 499 or 185.
When you,
499, 185.
Anne Marie Knable,
I'm gonna say 499 and 185.
Okay.
Trustee Chow,
I'm gonna say 185 and 499.
okay. Sunny,
499 and 185.
Rashmi,
499.
and Usana,
I'm also gonna say 499 and 185, although just with 185, I wanna know, it's not, obviously it's not centrally located, right? But all the other criteria, it being accessible and the parking not being an issue and in having enough seats, does it meet all of that criteria?
185 is, everything's on one floor. You just. walk
Okay,
in, you slide, just- yeah, everything's
We've
on
had
one
a
floor.
town hall there before.
okay, so yeah.
So it looks like 199 is your,
But we have 1, 2, 3, 4, did Michelle vote?
Michelle's not here.
Okay, so I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 499 as first choice. And then I got 185 as first, so I mean, I think. Are you guys okay with doing it 499? Or you want to ask the principal if it's okay?
Yeah, it's fine to do. I mentioned it. I just want to verify the number of seats, and I'll send that to Carly.
Okay.
Just to make sure
So-
that everybody's okay with that. I know 185 has a larger capacity, but like you said, it's not centrally located.
Right, okay, so I know Rushmore, if it's not 499, you have like a second choice?
Right, 499 for me, 499 would be the only choice because it has a lot of parking around it. And Queens College, like you stated, being closed, it will just be so easy for people to park.
All right, so we're gonna, only because we have a lot of people voting for 499, so let's stick to 499. Juliana, if you could just make sure that we're okay with the chancellor to have it there as well?
Sure, I'll double check with space management. I also, sorry, Joe, I wanted to just say that it's fine for Eden to participate in all of these conversations. She just can't be an official voting member.
Eden, are you here? Is Eden here? So Eden, I don't want to be
I'm here.
respectful to you, Eden. Do you have any discussion on where, you'd like to have the town hall?
I'm fine with either of the locations. I mean, they're both fine to me.
Okay. So, we're gonna, I
So
guess.
I have a suggestion.
Yes.
For Queens College has an amazing parking lot. Has it ever happened that we have done a town hall for CEC near a college and asked permission from them to use their parking lot? If somebody has to pay $1 or $2, I'm sure if that has not been done, if that's a possibility to do that.
They're really protective of their parking. We could reach out and see what they say. I know that There's been discussions between the school and Queens College around their parking, maybe because there's no school, it may be different, but I'll reach out. to Howard.
Does 499 have a parking lot or not? It doesn't, but it's
No,
street
but
parking.
it has the street parking
It
all
will be
along
street
the,
parking.
yeah,
The whole Main Street. Right.
yeah.
I mean, since most of us want to do it at 499, I think that's a good starting point, and let's see what, if it, let's try for that, right? And then, once we know that it's gonna be officially held there, I think the Chancellor's office sends out the notices, and maybe we can follow up with Queens College about paying for parking and whatnot. Is that okay, Rashmi?
Yeah. Yeah, that's good. I'll be happy to, I'm alumni of Queens College, so I'll be happy to run that if you want me to after, if
Okay.
everything gets finalized, 499.
All right, so maybe we'll take you up on your offer. If it's good for 499, then you'll be on the job of making sure we can secure parking there.
Yeah, I will, my job would be to request the Queens College as forcefully and delicately as possible to
Okay.
get the parking lot. That would be it.
That would be great. Thank you, Rashmi.
Yes.
Okay.
You're
So
welcome.
we know what the location is. So for those that have not sat through, wait, did we have a town hall last year? We did.
Virtually.
Virtually. So, what we really need is to focus on the questions that we're going to ask the Chancellor. So we have one more meeting before the town hall, so I asked that we start, figuring out how we're going to throw out the questions, what questions to ask. Of course, CEC members have the option of, speaking and asking a question on their behalf. But things we need to do some outreach to the community, right, Juliana?
Yeah, you have a couple different options for how you collect questions. So when people register online, they can select an option that says, I have a question that I want to ask. And they can submit that question through the registration form. That registration form is received by Learning Times, and then I can ask them to pass on the questions received to you. So it's, there's a mechanism that is, you don't have to do any work to obtain those responses from the community. Or you can create your own. Yes, Eden, exactly. Yes, you can do a Google form for questions. You would want to make sure that you get it translated, or that it has, Google has translation on their site. So because sometimes people submit questions in different languages, which is fine. We can get those translated as long as they're received ahead of time. And then you can also choose to take questions from the floor.
Okay, so another thing that we need to discuss, because it's going to be hybrid, does the school have the technology to do the hybrid meeting, right? How are we gonna do that?
Yeah, they have the tech, well, I'll just double check, but they do. They can.
Okay, so we need to figure that out, and do you suggest that all our council members try to come in person, or is it okay that some come on remotely? Because
It's okay for some to come remotely. It's very nice if you can be there in person, of course, and meet the chancellor in person, but it's up to you.
Okay, so Juliana, I guess I know, in the past we've had like special meetings where we did some planning. Are we gonna have
We'll
time
do those again. I'll call those meetings again so that we can plan for the town hall.
to start thinking about? Perfect. Any other item of new business?
Last year, it worked smoothly when they registered. They were also able to ask the questions, and that's how you guys were able to composite which questions you guys were all gonna.
Right, so we wanted to the last time we had plenty of time to prepare the questions and go through them. Are we gonna have time to do that again this year? Because it's right after the holidays, right? It's January 3rd.
Yeah, absolutely. That's why we'll try to get we'll have a planning meeting within the next 2 weeks.
Okay, perfect.
Yeah.
Okay, so that would be by special meeting, I'm assuming you'll send out yes.
Yeah, I'll set it up as a FACE meeting.
Great, thank you, Juliana. So, I mean, are there any other questions regarding the town hall?
It will be, I'll just give you a couple details. It will be produced by Learning Times, the hybrid, the virtual aspects of it will be produced by Learning Times. There will be a vendor there for sound, and that's all paid for centrally because we really see this as a collaboration with the CEC, with you all. And then I will submit the questions that you select. The chancellor has been getting to about 8 questions, and it's always a good idea to have extra questions prepared, and we'll make sure that we submit those questions ahead of time and try to get the best answers possible, the fullest answers possible. And then there will also be interpretation provided. The languages are based upon the home language survey, the data that the Office of Language Access has. I don't have it in front of me as to which languages it will be, but I'll tell you tomorrow.
Okay, so we have plenty of time to prepare is what you're saying, correct?
We really do. It is true that we'll have to front load things, because of the holidays. We'll probably want to be prepared by middle of December. But that's okay. We still have time. It's just the beginning of November right now.
Okay, perfect. So I have to tell you, fellow councilman, I mean, I met the chancellor a couple of times. He's a very personable, great, nice guy, great personality. So I would encourage you to show up in person and meet him in person because it's a different feeling when you meet someone in person as opposed to meeting that person virtually, right? So I would encourage you to try to attend personally, in person, okay? So other than that, I mean, we can talk about it during our special meeting for the planning of the town hall. We have our December meeting. I don't know if, in terms of topics, if anyone has something you want to raise. I mean, I can tell you what I'm interested in. I don't know if anyone else has something that they want to bring up, but I wanted to bring back to the table the safety issue because it looks like there's a pilot that's been set out and we may get one of our schools. I'm not giving information so fast, but we might have one of our schools take part in a pilot program where they may be locking the doors. So I think school safety is a good topic and it might be the right time to call for a meeting in December about school safety. You guys have any thoughts about that?
Yeah, it's really good. You see it like so many meetings.
Right, I think it's a good topic for our next month. I like that it moves pretty quickly. And we also have to talk about district funding, right? So when does we have district head? No, they already came.
SCA.
No, that's school. Fair student funding is when that was done already.
I thought we did that.
Yeah, we did
Yeah,
that.
but just in terms of funding for.
So another hot topic that you will see in the news, I'm sure in the next few days, will be dealing with funding, school funding. So I think that's going to be a hot topic. These are 2 hot topics. I'm not sure if we want to have it the same night, but something to consider. Let me know what your thoughts are, because as we plan for December, we may want to talk about funding. Just look out. Well, I think there was supposed to be a decision, or I didn't read about it. It was supposed to come out October 31st, right? I haven't seen a public statement on that yet.
There are many organizations, even the ones that you don't feel, they're fighting it because they don't like the idea of taking money from specialized high school or from the schools.
Well, that's exactly. So I think it might come out in December.
I tell them actually they don't need this actually, they need entirely something else. Right? But I think.
I don't think I could hear you. Can you hear them, Mr. Chow?
No,
You have to speak into the microphone.
thank you.
Let's speak.
Okay.
I thought school funding was decided, but anyway, some organizations are fighting it. We don't like the idea of taking money from the specialized high schools to give it to the other schools or good, performing schools or good performing schools. So, but that's a good topic.
I think it's a great topic and it's a hot topic. So I could tell you that what I'm hearing in our community is that they're going to take money from certain districts and reallocate it to the more poverty-stricken districts. And I can tell you, I mean, I don't think that our district is looked, I think we're going to lose money, is what I'm gonna tell you, because we are a high-performing district. And I think that in terms of the city, we're perceived as being self-sufficient. We don't need the money because we have high numbers. And I think they're gonna take money out of our district and bring it to other districts. So something to look out for in the news, and maybe we need to talk about it as a community, right? So I don't know if we can put these two big PowerPoints on for our next meeting, but it might be a good time to have that as part of our meeting before our town hall, because that could also determine, part of the questioning that we have for our chancellor.
So that question for the funding, so there's a chance that we may lose money in our district to the another.
So there's a working group that's there. We haven't heard anything, but the potential of coming out with models. So if you would want any information on that, Carly would have to work with Base to see who could come and speak to explain it. That's not necessarily where the district would come in and say, like, here's our current spending. We could do that, but not necessarily something I can speak to, such as fair student funding or anything, because I think they're just considering different models. I don't have that information.
Yeah, because I don't think
I know there's a working group on it, and I think the PEP's involved in it, or there's different groups, UFT, I mean, it's a working model. But I know that they were supposed to come out with something in writing for October 31st, and I haven't seen that yet. So I think they're still working out the terms, but I think it's something that's gonna come up, and I think we really need to talk about it. So it might be a good topic. I don't know if you have suggestions of who could come in, but we can figure it out.
Yeah, I don't even know, because it's not a DOE,
Juliana, do you have anybody?
DOE hasn't really made.
Face, you know about it, Juliana?
Yeah, the working group asked if they could have until Thursday, I think, to submit their final recommendation. So it hasn't come out yet. I'm looking for the link. There's a link where all the information is online, and I can put it in the chat as soon as I find it. And then I will find out if there's somebody who can come speak to it. I don't know I don't know the name off the top of my head.
Okay. All right, so maybe we'll work on that. I'll work on that with Carly. And in terms of school safety, I have some numbers. You also have some recommendations.
Yeah, I mean, we can start with Judy.
Okay,
Yeah.
so we'll start working on that. Is that okay, guys? We can do that for our next meeting?
Yes.
So we'll talk about school safety and we'll see with the funding where that goes. But I think we'll be able to do both. Okay? All right, so having said that, guys, good meeting. Any other comments, items of new business from any of our members? If not, then motion to adjourn the meeting. Okay, so our meeting is adjourned. I'm sure we'll speak before our December 7th meeting, but thank you guys and have a wonderful evening.
Thank you, everyone. Have a great night.